Today I'm heading out to one of my favorite tiny cabins. I built the whole cabin almost entirely from scrap from other people's projects. That's the advantage of building a cabin that's only 80 square feet. Most people have that left over from their build. I started collecting materials about 6 months before I started building. I spent a lot of time on the free section of Craigslist. What I found pretty much dictated what the place was going to look like, and I gotta admit, it looks nothing like my original plan. Once you start looking, you start finding building materials in places you never would have expected. The property we're heading to doesn't have power, but it does have access to a community well, so I do have running water. So this is it. My project started with a trailer frame I found in the free section of Craigslist. They're actually quite common because most people just want them off their lot. So plan on some demolition. If you feel you need a title, though, you're going to pay a lot. I did have to cut off some rust, and I used an old bed frame to widen the trailer. This saved on having to purchase angle iron. Lumber you can find in lots of places. Scrap wood boxes on job sites, people's remodeling projects, or rebuilding an old deck. I even used old pallet boards. Plan on pulling lots of nails and ripping damaged 2x6s into 2x4s on the table saw. The deck also proved to be the perfect food prep area. We used it for barbecuing. We had an outside pizza oven. We even brought the oven from inside outside when we were cooking something like fish. My best find was probably the siding. We got 20 sheets of it again in the free section on Craigslist. About half of it was severely sunbeaten, so we painted that and used it on the outside of the cabin. All the sheets had several inches of rot on them. But since the cabin wasn't 8 feet tall, I was able to cut the rod off and still use the siding. The cabin was built with the idea of using a solar generator, but we found this little generator on Craigslist for 75 bucks. It's only 2,000 watts, but we thought it would be a great backup power supply. Since we've had it, we've probably only needed to use it twice. The metal roofing came from the transfer station. They've got a section there where you can leave materials that you think somebody else might be able to use. Most of the roofing was damaged or had scratches in it, but since our roof was so small, we were able to salvage enough to finish the job. So the plan was always to get a solar generator, but this is what we're doing right now for electricity. We're using an inverter. This one clips right on top of my battery packs, the same ones I use for my tools. So this has worked very well for me. We simply take the battery and snap it right onto the bottom of the inverter. Then we take a power cord, and this plugs right into the inverter. Then we plug the other end of the extension cord into a special outlet that was designed for the solar generator. Then when we power on the inverter, we have our lights. Once you plug in the battery pack, all the light switches and outlets work like normal. Obviously, if you plugged in something with a heavy current draw, like a space heater, it would drain the battery packs very quickly. Since we use propane for heating the place, one battery pack will usually last all day since we only use it for lighting, charging cell phones, and laptops. We also use propane for our oven. These ovens can be found on Craigslist for 25 or 50 bucks. Ours works great except for the igniter doesn't work, so we have to light it by hand. We use a standard light bar, but all the light bulbs are LEDs and they're just 2 watts apiece. So it's just 8 watts for all the lighting inside the tiny cabin. As I mentioned before, the siding on the outside is the same siding we used on the inside. We just put a clear coat of lacquer on it on the inside. We found these cool little springboards at IKEA. They act just like a box spring, but they don't take up any space. When people put in new flooring, they always have a couple leftover boxes. You can find this stuff all over Craigslist, and if you're not picky about color, you can probably even get it for free. Mattresses are another thing you can always find free on Craigslist. Of course, I'm kind of picky about that, so both of these I paid for. The cabinet and countertop I got for free from somebody who was doing a remodel. The first time I drove by it, I thought it was hideous, but after I cleaned it up, it's kind of grown on me. This is so good. Linguine with pesto and tomatoes. Well, I think I'm going to do some reading before I hit the sack. I was hoping it would snow all night, but I think it started to rain sometime around midnight. I think it's time to get up and make some breakfast. Little Italian sausage. Nothing better than hot biscuits and gravy on a cold morning. They are so good. I want to share one more thing with you. This is something that's absolutely necessary for your extended stay in a tiny cabin. It's about 32 degrees this morning. It's pretty hard to beat a hot shower. The water may seem a little hot at 120 degrees, but when it's 32 degrees outside, the water cools very quickly coming out of the shower head. Well, I'm heading out. If you liked the video, please hit that like and subscribe button.